Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hayner. Councilman Kitchen. Councilman Secreto. Councilman Van Cleek.
Accounted for.
Supervisor Quigley.
He's over there. Here. Thank you very much and welcome to the Town of Ulster Town Board Workshop meeting for Thursday, June 1st, 2023. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? None. Public comments on agenda items, please. Ms. Sanders? Oh, stand. Here we go.
Kaylin Sanders, town of Ulster, Glenary Boulevard resident. I wanted to ask about the resolution that's on the agenda regarding Central Hudson's or granting of site plan extension. What that entails isn't clear from the meeting minute documents. And as far as I understand, that the public should be allowed to see the application with the resolution. So I'm wondering if you can give us some more clarity. We have a couple neighbors here on Glenary Boulevard that are wondering about what exactly this is.
Thank you. We'll address that when we call the motion. Mr. Obujeski?
Good evening, Supervisor Quigley, members of the town board, Regis Obujeski, 170 Ledge Road, Town of Ulster, excuse me. Thank you for this opportunity to comment on the final item of this evening's agenda, resolution granting a site plan extension for Central Hudson Gas and Electric. Tonight, I'm requesting your consideration of postponing the consideration of a resolution plan for this meeting. In 2019, when the town of Ulster approved the Central Hudson application for site plan, many of us at that time felt that this revered public utility was not only a good neighbor in the community, but also they exhibited competent and unselfish leadership throughout the region. Since then, Central Hudson has squandered much goodwill with this project, and also we're in the mistrust and even the scorn of most of its customers regarding and regulators regarding billing practices. In addition, this company has infuriated many of the town's citizens who live near the Central Hudson unfinished project site. Adding 5 more years to the completion of this controversial development without any stated reasons whatsoever ignores the sensibilities of our citizens, prolongs the ill effects of this development, and leaves them bereft of adequate representation. At the very least, there should be a public hearing on the Central Hudson's requests before our town board considers any permit extension. The board is within its rights not to hold such a hearing, but I'm asking that you exercise your exercise of discretion in this circumstance to open the opportunity for your constituents to voice their opinion on the quote best interests of the town of Ulster. A request from this gas and electric utility should not be treated as a fait accompli. Again, Central Hudson has demonstrated in recent years they are not the good neighbor they once were. Please postpone any decision to extend a permit for any length of time until the town board holds a public hearing on the request at hand. Tonight, I'm asking for your consideration again to postpone the resolution planned for this meeting. Thank you.
Any additional comment? Ma'am?
My name is Deborah Denise. I live at 450 Glenary Boulevard. To date, Central Hudson has done little to keep their promises to our neighbors and citizens. They said that they would plant trees. They said they would put up a berm. We haven't seen any of that, and yet the racket and the tearing up of the ground has continued. I don't know what they've done to correct the so-called runoff pond. About a year ago, we had a massive flood on Glenary. 3 of our neighbors ended up with over 12 feet of water coming in at their doors. I have continued to see, even with a light rain, the hole that was made continues to emit mud whenever it rains, even if it's a light one. This means eventually that whole side is going to cave in. And God forbid there's a train going over top. People are going to die. Not to mention the loss of property, the loss of everything, Please hold Central Hudson a little more accountable. Hold off on making this decision until we know exactly what they intend to do and exactly when they intend to do it. I'm tired of them coming in, patting us on the head like we're all little dumb children and doing what they damn well please. Pardon me. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment?
My name is Pedro Santiago. I live directly across from the project of Central Hudson. I have been encountering noise and pollution, and it's Central Hudson has proven that they are not the good neighbor that they like to project. And also I've noticed that if as people, we stay asleep and don't keep our eyes on what's happening, this is what happens. We get screwed over. And I definitely feel screwed over, and I'm very angry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Concluding public comment communications?
We received an email on May 31st from town resident Linda and Art Nelson on Park Road, thanking the highway department and Frank Petromal especially for taking down a very dead and very dangerous tree along Park Road in the town of Ulster. A timely, well done job. I'd also like to inform the public that the town clerk's office, with the commitment from the town board, is putting on a bus trip for a lunch and matinee performance called My Way, a tribute to Frank Sinatra. The date is July 25th. We're just taking a bus ride, leaving here from town hall parking lot and returning to the town by 5 p.m. And I encourage everyone to contact my office to sign up for the trip. We have a maximum of 50 people for the bus, and it will be a very exciting time for our annual bus trip. And I would like to thank Melanie, my new deputy, for organizing this, and she's going on the trip and I'm staying back. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes communications. Moving on to new business. First item is a presentation and acceptance of the supervisor's monthly report for the months of January through March 2023. This report is to be presented to the public through the town's website after acceptance by the town board. May I have a motion to accept? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion granted. The second item requires no action on the part of the town board. Is presentation of a resolution of determination of a seeker type 2 action for the grant and for the replacement of on the south side of the Ulster Water District. This is a condition of the grant application and will be voted on at a future meeting. Mr. Secreto?
We have a hiring for the police department. The employee's name will be Kaylin M. Winnie, part-time dispatcher. comes to the police department, comes out of the general funds, part-time, non-competitive position. It is a union position with the PBA. No health insurance. It'll be a step one. Wage will be $19.58. Start date would be 05/21/23, and this comes at the request of Chief Berardi. And I make the motion to hire Kaylin M. Winnie as a part-time dispatcher.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a motion to hire a town controller. As the town of Ulster knows, we went through a ballot initiative a couple of years ago to change our governance and allow for the appointment of a town controller. It's been a long search, and tonight I would like to present to the town board Tasha Sweeney for the position of controller. She's coming out of she's in the supervisor's office. It will be in the general fund. It's full-time, civil service exempt. It is not a union position. It is at an annual wage of $77,315. The start date is 6/2. Tasha comes to the town of Ulster from the Ulster County Department of Finance's office and brings a wealth of knowledge. So I ask for a motion.
I'll make it.
Do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Is the person in the room?
Tasha, please stand up and identify yourself. The next item on our agenda is a motion to authorize the police chief to auction 2 vehicles with Auctions International. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a motion to schedule a public hearing for Thursday, June 15th, 2023 at 7:10 for public input on the town's application for an Environmental Facilities Corporation WIA grant for the replacement of the Ulster Water District Small South Storage Tank. May I have a motion to set the public hearing?
I'll make it. That's second.
We got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. For the record, I am going to read the resolution that has been presented to the town board on the site plan approval extension for Central Hudson. Whereas the Town of Ulster Town Board approved an application for conditional site plan and special permit approval from Central Hudson on November 21st, 2019 for the purposes of a new gas and electric training facility. Whereas pursuant to the Ulster Town Code, section 145-13B, construction of an approved site plan shall be completed within 3 years after the start of construction. And whereas construction of the approved site plan started on July 9th, 2020, and construction is not to be expected to be completed until December 31st, 2028. And whereas Central Hudson is requesting an extension of the conditional site plan and special permit approval until December 31st, 2028. And whereas Central Hudson has already completed the gas village and the pole yard, and the primary control center development is currently underway to be completed in 2024. Whereas the Ulster Town Board has determined it is in the best interest of the town of Ulster to extend the amended site plan approvals, and whereas Ulster Town Code section 145-14 grants the town board the power to vary or waive the provisions of chapter 144, where in its judgment, the circumstances justify such variance or waiver upon such terms and conditions as it may deem appropriate, provided that such variation and or waiver promotes the health or general welfare and orderly growth. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the amended site plan approval hereto granted on November 21st, 2019 shall be amended as follows. The approval granted by the town board on November 21st, 2019 shall be deemed to have expired unless completion of the improved development shall occur and a certificate of occupancy shall issue no later than December 31st, 2028. And be it further resolved that the resolution shall take effect upon payment by Central Hudson of any applicable extension fees. Now, the question came about as to how this was requested. It was requested in a letter from Central Hudson. It was requested because of COVID, supply chain issues, and PSC determinations relating to capital investments by Central Hudson and the placement of those capital investments in the rate base. Central Hudson has completed all of the intrusive work that included the blasting, dirt moving, and tree cutting. There is none of those activities left to be completed on the site. The activities remaining to be completed are the interior construction of the primary control center, the pole yard, which is the placement of a series of 40-foot utility poles on the north end of the property for training, and the construction of I believe it to be a 20,000 square foot training building, which will be just north of the primary control center. Nothing on the site plan has changed that would give the town board the right to require Central Hudson to reapply. They have complied with all their requirements, including the construction of a berm on Eastern Parkway, which is close to being substantially complete, subject to some minor grading and the planting of trees. Whenever we have asked Central Hudson to do something, they have complied. And and this is a personal statement from the supervisor, I don't believe it is a responsible town government that's going to hold up a capital project that is going to benefit the climate challenge that we are facing in this community by delaying a project that is so integral to the integration of solar capacity into the grid by dragging this out. I ask for a motion to accept the resolution as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. That concludes tonight's meeting. I will now open the floor for public comment. You got one? And where? Ms. Hartman?
I have two questions I'm hoping you can address tonight. I don't think they're warrant any research or anything, but the closure of the Delaware Aqueduct that's going to be happening for repairs. There's not a lot of public information about what's happening and when. And I know that you've been participating in those meetings. And I'm wondering if you could update us on what's happening. And I suspect that something that you did got them to change from keeping the reservoir at 100% capacity to bring it down to 90%, which is a great thing because keeping it at 100% is just insane. So I wanted to make that public statement and say, if that was because of you, thank you. And if you could just keep us apprised at what's happening, because there's just not a lot of public information about it. So that's my first thing. And the second thing is you've been participating in the hazard mitigation project with the county. Again, that's a great thing that I think that you're doing. And if you could just update us on what's happening with that.
I'll take your second question first. There is a meeting next Tuesday afternoon of the Hazard Mitigation Committee. It's a final wrap up of the study.
Mhm.
I will be glad to report to you in the June 15th meeting based upon what I learned at that meeting.
Great.
I am better prepared to discuss the Delaware Aqueduct closing because we had a meeting with the New York City DEP on Tuesday. The Delaware Aqueduct is required to be closed because of the leaks that need to be repaired both in Warsing and in Roasting. The DEP has constructed over the last several years a diversion tunnel under the Hudson River that was 2.5 miles long that needs to be connected so that they can close the portion of the tunnel in Roaston that is leaking. And they want to dewater the portion of the tunnel from Round Out down to Roaston so that they can address the issues in Warsing. This work was scheduled to take place last year. Because of construction delays, they had to call it off. This work is scheduled for this year, but this is the problem. The Delaware Aqueduct provides a substantial portion of the New York City water supply. When they turn it off, they have to find other sources. Those other sources include the Croton water system and the water reservoirs that are on the east side of the Hudson, as well as running the Ashokan Reservoir at max capacity for delivery of water into New York City. There have been recent studies by the National Ocean and NOAA, okay, whatever NOAA stands for, as it relates to the effect of El Nino on the weather patterns in North America. It was discussed that April was a very dry month and May has been a very dry month. They are concerned that we are running into a dry summer. If we end up having a dry summer, that will impact the availability of water out of the Ashokan Reservoir, which will delay the aqueduct's shutdown until next year. They cannot start the shutdown without assurances that they can provide adequate water to New York City. So they have not made a determination that they are going to proceed or not to proceed. They're waiting for additional information to develop to be able to make the evaluation and evaluate the risk that they're taking. The contract that the New York City DEP entered into with the contractor for the shutdown was specified that there would be a 3-year period that this work should take place in. So then they have lost the first year option. They may lose the second year option. And then they will be faced with, they may end up, if they can't do it next year, they will have to think about what they're going to do going forward. But as of right now, there has been no decision to shut it down. Therefore, relying more on the Ashokan Reservoir for the primary source of water for New York City. And if you noticed, over the last couple of years, there were periodic shutdowns in the Catskill Aqueduct going to New York City. That was because they were making repairs in that tunnel, cleaning the interior of the tunnel so that they could increase the capacity from, I think it was 580 million gallons a day to 620 million gallons a day, so that they could use the Ashokan as the primary source of water. So that's where that is.
Thank you very much. If you could keep us apprised, once in a while of what's happening with that, and
When I
that
know,
would
you
be
will know.
great. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Yes.
Good evening. First, I want to thank you for inviting me here to come and speak. I live in Glen Eyrie. My name is Virginia Hamilton. And about 4 years ago, somebody moved into the area that was going to put a house on this several plots of land. And since that time, there's been consistent and constant noise and construction. I have tried to speak to the building department to see if this was okay. He owns and operates his own heavy machinery. He warehouses it on his property. He's also running a trucking company from the property. He has 3 or 4 tractor trailer cabs, and the trailers are on the property as well. All of Memorial Day weekend, he worked about 7 to 8 hours a day, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I've called the police. I've talked about that, and they've said that, if he has a building permit, he can do as he pleases within those hours. I've tried looking up on the ordinances of like noise disturbances. And that I'm reading that about Kingston area, that you're not supposed to be using heavy machinery on Sundays, excluding lawnmowers and gardening, but any operation he doesn't comply with. I spoke to the police about that. They will do nothing. I've made several visits, as I said, to the building department, which led me to you yesterday. I am so disturbed by this continuous, and he's bringing in gravel. He's the trucker. And I found his company online, and I sent you an email on this. He's allowed to haul everything. And I don't know where all of this rock and all this stuff is coming from. He's right on the Esopus where the Glenary Falls are. So I just need some guidance and help how I can solve this problem of noise and what he's doing in the area. And is trucking, is storing tractor trailers and heavy equipment legal on residential areas? These are my questions. I don't know where to go with this, except that I'm really disturbed. I can't even sit outside.
I want to thank you for coming to see me yesterday. I have been up to the property several times since then. While the noise is a nuisance, it's not the detrimental reason for stopping this activity. First of all, he is conducting a contractor storage yard in an R30 zoning district, which is a residential zoning district. And under the town code, he is required to have a special town board permit for that activity in the proper zoning district.
Does he have that?
No, he does not.
Okay.
So just to let you know, in the southern part of the town of Ulster, in the hamlet of Eddyville, there was once a junkyard that was operating outside the bounds of the town's zoning laws. They, according to the town's laws, they were required to get a junkyard permit. They failed to do so. We sued in state Supreme Court and shut them down. We've had meetings with the building department and the town attorneys. The building department will be issuing notices of violation and preparing the legal papers for the town attorney to file a lawsuit in New York State Supreme Court in Ulster County for a violation of the town's zoning code for operating a business without the proper permits. So I heard you loud and clear yesterday,
So great.
and we are moving forward for that. And I'm hoping that we are successful. And as I explained to you yesterday, when we choose to go the legal route, we are going to be subject to the timelines of the judiciary branch of the government, and it could take us 6 months to a year.
How can I keep apprised of what's going on? I've taken it onto myself because I felt no support from where I've gone to go down there and photograph. And he's approached me and he doesn't let you down at the dead end. He goes as if he owns this area. So I want to know that I don't have to watch anymore, that I've handed this over. Do I keep calling?
I would
with the
ask you
tractor
that
trailers?
if you see anything extreme, let my office know.
Well, I
let
went
my
down
office-
yesterday and he had knocked down the lines. I had to call the police and the neighbor called the police. He knocked down the cable lines or electrical lines that were going across the road with the tractor trailer. The police had to come and they spoke to him. They repaired it. So I think it was just cable lines. So, but I don't want to confront him, but I feel as though I have to keep watch because this has gone so beyond what I would consider. He's never put a structure on the house. And I keep hearing that he has a building permit and he's allowed to do this.
He has a building permit and certain activities are allowed. Not all the activities that you described
All right.
are allowed. The activities not allowed are the activities of running a business in a residential zone. And specifically a business that requires a town board permit that he would not get because he's not in a commercial zone. So we have instructed both the building department and the town attorney to proceed accordingly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any additional comments from the general public? With that, Mr. Vogt,
We got a stranger coming up here.
would you identify yourself?
Paul Vogt, Wildwood Lane. Just to follow up, I live on Wildwood. This guy's, he's been doing this for probably 3 to 4 years. Living in a camper, 12 months a year. I mean, the whole family of adults living in a camper. The camper's winterized. I don't know if there's any bathrooms there. I don't know what he has there. But I always thought there was a law in the town where you can't live in a camper for more than, what is it, Warren, 6 weeks, 6 months, something? And he's also clear cut the property. And I think if you clear cut more than an acre of property, you got to apply for a swept street permit from the DEC because of the Esopus right underneath you. You're filling it in and it's draining down. So, you know, I put up with the trucks too, because all weekend long, we watch trucks go by every 3 to 4 hours. There's another truck coming in. And it seems kind of odd that it takes 3 hours to get a truckload on a Saturday and Sunday. And the only place I'm thinking is you're going down the city, picking up Phil and bringing it home and then burying it as soon as he gets back. So I'm glad you're aware of it and I hope you look into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? Motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. We'll see you on June 15th. Next week?